It's a historic time in Prayagraj. The temple town is witnessing the world's biggest confluence of humanity. Millions from across Bharat, across the world, are flocking to Prayagraj to be a part of the spiritual spectacle that happens once in 144 years, because this is the Mahakumbh. Over 6 crore have already taken the holy dip, and we are just into day 4. The Mahakumbh Mela, the festival of the sacred pitcher, is found in Sanatan history. It is the world's largest public congregation where millions unite in faith, spirituality, and follow this entire ritual of cleansing themselves. Ascetics, saints, sadhus, pilgrims, people from all walks of life, people from various offshoots of Sanatan Pratha, they are all there to seek truth, light, and also in the search for moksha and immortality, to break away from this cycle of birth and death, to liberate the Atma, the soul, from this continuous perennial cycle of birth and death. That's what the Kumbh, the confluence of the Ganga, Jamuna and Saraswati at Prayagraj, offers to those spiritually conscious. The Kumbh Mela rotates across 4 sacred locations in Bharat, where pilgrims take the dip at the holy rivers and places of confluence for their spiritual renewal, revival and awakening. The astrological significance of the Kumbh celebrations coincide with this unique astrological alignment marking the holiest time in Hinduism, and it happens, this constellation and this happens only once in 144 years. Each site celebration is based on a distinct set of astrological positions of the Sun, the Moon and Jupiter. The celebrations occur at the exact moment when these positions are fully occupied, as it is considered to be the holiest time in Sanatan Pratha. A divine blend of astronomy, astrology and also ritualistic practices make Mahakumbh a mela, a confluence where rich, profound spiritual experience. Over 12 years, this monumental festival captures the timeless essence of Hindu spirituality and tradition. 4 kinds of Kumbh Mela are celebrated by devotees. The regular Kumbh Mela takes place every 3 years by rotation at the 4 sacred sites of Prayagraj, Haridwar, Nashik and Ujjain. The Ardha Kumbh, that means Ardha or half Kumbh, takes place once in 6 years at Haridwar and at Prayagraj. The name is half Kumbh because it occurs the midpoint of this 12-year cycle of the regular Mela. The Purna Kumbh, that is the complete Kumbh, is celebrated once in 12 years at the 4 sacred sites, and it is believed that the 12-year period is a marker of the planet Jupiter's alignment with the other constellations. The Mahakumbh is celebrated every 144 years after the completion of 12 Purna Kumbh Melas, and this happens at Prayagraj, becoming one of the rarest events that attracts devotees in large numbers. Saints, seers, all the 13 akhadas, and of course various other spiritual offshoots, they all come here because this is happening in their lifetime. The current Kumbh is being held after 12 years, but seers claim the celestial alignments for this event are taking place after 144 years, making this even far more auspicious, because there is the Purna Kumbh and then there is also the Mahakumbh. David Frawley, author and Vedacharya, with us. Anand Nilakanthan, novelist and columnist, with us. Sriram Balasubramaniam, author of Dharmanomics, an economist and banker himself, with us. And Sadhvi Pragya Bharti, Vedic scholar, also with us. My namaste to everybody. It's a very, very historic occurrence in Bharat. From purely the numbers perspective, for us to be able to host so many people and for them to congregate in one created district, in a tent city, for them to come there and to go back spiritually enlightened, awakened and perhaps enriched, is amazing. What's the economics behind it? Sriram Balasubramaniam, let's start with there. Is this perhaps the biggest hint of temple economy or dharmanomics?
Thanks, Anand. Good evening, and thanks for having me here. Indeed, there are a variety of factors at play. Firstly, we're having 400 million people. It's more than the population of the United States, for example, who are congregated at one particular place over a 45-day period. That itself is a phenomenal, fact, where a variety of economic parameters, food, tourism, infrastructure, all of them come together at a place which I call the biggest inelastic demand, because no one is looking at what the RBI is talking about. No one is thinking about any other macroeconomic factors. Everything is aligned to this dharmic way of life, which is driving the economic activity in Prayagraj during this time. If you look at the numbers, they're fascinating. I mean, there are about 7,000 crores invested in this event, about 5,000 crores that come from the state government, and 2,000 crores from the central government through a grant. There are a variety of investments that are done. You know, you look at 1.5 lakh toilets, 10,000 changing rooms for pilgrims, 7,500 buses, 3,000 special trains. All of these infrastructure is specifically for this event. So there's a lot of direct economies of scale. And lastly, you know, the estimates of 2.5 lakh crores in terms of the revenue gained from this 45-day period. Just to give you some context, it's almost 10% of the entire GDP of Uttar Pradesh for 2023-2024. That is, even if we take lower levels of this estimate, 5 to 10% of the GDP is a huge number. So I think direct implication in terms of economic activity, opportunities, 10 lakh jobs are going to be created, according to CII, is significant. And then, of course, there are indirect economies of scale. We're talking about what happens to all this infrastructure after the Kumbh ends, right? It's not like they're just going to disappear. But a lot of this infrastructure is going to benefit the people of the state, the people of the community, on the support infrastructure that comes through. I think that's a very important point that one needs to be aware of. And lastly, I think from a political economy point of view, it's very important to understand that, we are having this in a 45-day period. So there's a time-bound response by the bureaucracy and the government, which means they need to arrange everything in a time-bound manner. And it ensures that there's greater efficiency of infrastructure development, because there's a target. You have to ensure that it happens before and during this time, and accommodating such large sections of people. So I think the economies of scale, both at the indirect level and direct level, both for now as well as how this infrastructure sort of benefits the state and the community as a whole, is a very important, factor that people need to, take into account. And this is the biggest example of the dharmic way of life producing economies of scale. So if policy is aligned to this dharmic way of life, which I've argued in my books, I think it helps us to expand the economic potential far more and in a far more effective manner. So the scale is huge. The economics of it is also equally huge.
So you top up your soul, but also along with that, you also top up your pockets. So that it works both ways from a very dharmic way of life or the dharmanomics point of view. But this is all temporary arrangements. This is all floodplain areas, ecologically sensitive areas, and that's why you cannot have permanent structures in any of these places. So they come up, they're brought down, and then they put them back again. And that's why it's also now deemed a district. Pandit Vamdev Shastri, what's the spiritual significance of what we are witnessing? How important is this 1 year into the Pran Pratishtha of Ramlala, the awakening, cultural awakening of Bharat? Is this a huge signal in that direction?
This is probably the greatest spiritual gathering and celebration that the world has seen to date. Of course, the population of India is more, but there are also people from all over the world. So it is a planetary-wide event and influence. Now, coming 1 year after the Ram Janmabhoomi inauguration, it is also marking a new era, karmically, astrologically, and spiritually for India, and for all of those who follow the Hinduism Sanatana Dharma. So we must recognize that we are witnessing a centuries event for humanity, a new India, the possibility of a new humanity, and a very good and wonderful example for the coming century. You see right now there are so many conflicts in the world, so many divisions. People aren't coming together except to protest, it seems. Now we have a celebration of something transcendent, divine, ancient. The yogis are here, Naga sadhus, the devatas are present. You can enter into a higher dimension of consciousness. So this is a wonderful event for all, and it needs to be taken at the level of the heart, the level of the higher consciousness, and shared with all humanity. It is not simply a mundane event. It is an opportunity for transcendence, for all humanity, for the planet, and for a renewal of the earth and humanity for a greater age, not simply of science and technology, but consciousness and spirituality. And it brings that peace, shanti, and cosmic harmony for all, and brings the devas back to our afflicted world, you might say, so that we can again erase and awaken the divine consciousness within each and all, and also see that everywhere on earth throughout the entire universe. Hari Om.
Beautifully said. Science and spirituality coming together. Is there substance in our, or is this a testament that our own ancient wisdom, the Indic knowledge, as many would say, Anandji, is something that we need to cherish? Is this going to rekindle that? Or was it already there? It's just that it's manifest more now.
Thank you. Actually, this is an example of how Hinduism reinvents itself, rejuvenates itself every time. We find that this is one belief system having so many paths, so many rivers that flow into the sea. There are so many paths of knowing the truth. It's a quest. The Hinduism is a spiritual quest. What we call now as Hinduism or Sanatan is a confluence of a lot of beliefs, and as Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, all paths leads to me, that is Krishna or the Supreme Consciousness. So many paths will lead, and the Kumbh is an example of that. So many akhadas participate, all the caste barriers break down, all the regional barriers, language barriers, everything is breaking down, and people come to these tirthas, and Prayagraj is the king of tirthas. Everyone coming here together as one humanity, coming here and orienting themselves. That is what the Kumbh Mela is. What is immortality? This is how a society, a culture, a civilization become immortal. It reinvents again and again. It is said that one of the belief systems is that Adi Shankara had, even though there are references of Kumbh Mela much before that, even from the Vedic times, it is said that Adi Shankara had made it so organized, like his establishment of other months, so that different forms of different streams of thoughts which were at sometimes having a lot of arguments, debates, and even conflicts with each other, they all came together and reminded the people that all paths lead to the same truth.
Yeah.
So now
Akashat
we are
patitam toyam
reinventing.
yatha gacchati sagaram. Sarvadevam
Exactly.
namaskaram keshavam pratigacchati. But in this case, how does the Mahadev aspect come in, Sadhviji? And if he were to look at this, is there a ritual to be followed? Is just taking one dip enough? Or are devotees, bhaktas, expected to stay on, spend a few days there? Or is there a definition, or does that also change based on which shoot of Sanatan one follows?
First of all, Anand, I would say heartiest congratulations to all of us for witnessing two monumental events in our lifetime.
Indeed.
Events that reaffirm the strength of our faith and the richness of our spiritual heritage. The inauguration and now finally completion of 1 year of magnificent Ram Mandir in Ayodhya is not just the realization of a cherished dream, but also a beacon of Lord Ram's eternal values of dharma, truth, and compassion. It stands tall as a symbol of a collective devotion and cultural pride. And at the same time, the Mahakumbh in Prayagraj, the grand confluence of spirituality and divinity, brings together millions from across the world to celebrate the timeless traditions of Sanatan Dharma. This sacred gathering reminds us of the enduring power of faith and the profound connection between humanity and the divine. And to witness these two extraordinary events in the same era is nothing short of a divine blessing. Let us cherish this rare privilege, I would say, deepen our spiritual resolve, and take inspiration from these milestones to walk the path of righteousness, unity, and devotion. And now, talking about Mahakumbh 2025, like you asked me about the holy dip. So, I would say Mahakumbh 2025 is not just a religious event, it is a symbol of Indian culture, spirituality, and the core values of life. This grand festival offers an opportunity not only for the purification of the soul, but also for the world to understand India's spiritual heritage and cultural richness, Like you said, how many times we should take holy dip, like maybe we should go to all the snans that are being organized there. Even if you go once and take one holy dip, it is more than enough because it is a union of dharma and karma. Mahakumbh teaches us that the ultimate purpose of human life is not merely material pleasures, but the upliftment of the soul and attaining salvation. Like Anand, you beautifully started with the introduction of Mahakumbh. You said, this is the time wherein the devotees, they want to cleanse the soul. And it also gives the message of service. So Mahakumbh emphasizes the importance of serving others, charity and selflessness, which are the core principles of Sanatan Dharma. So it also, I would say, delivers the message of unity and brotherhood. People from diverse cultures, caste, creed, languages, and traditions come together, spreading the message of love and harmony. So Mahakumbh 2025, specifically this one, which is coming after 144 year, and we are blessed to witness this, in our lifetime.
True.
And I would say this will redefine the meaning of spirituality and will bring new avenues to our country also in terms of spiritual tourism and economic growth as well.
We see that, Sriram Balasubramaniam, cultural tourism has overshadowed, leisure tourism destinations in our country in the last 3 or 4 years. So is this a revival of temple economy? Can we look at Tailor making policies on similar lines? Because we talked about the costs that are involved, but this is also a huge revenue generator. It's also a huge income generator.
Of course, I think that has been, one of my arguments, I think, in general through my books. And this is the biggest example of that, right? We spoke about infrastructure, right? Infrastructure, I'm not talking about just the infrastructure at the venue. That is, replaceable because, you erect these tents and then they go after some time. But the entire support infrastructure, how do you reach Prayagraj, right? Through, say, the airport infrastructure, the rail infrastructure, the entire tourism ecosystem, which is created, all the facilities that they are created because of this. All of these things, the support infrastructure, the indirect economies of scale, are likely to be there, for a much longer term. So, which means that, you're looking at time-bound infrastructure development because you have to do it during this time, and this improves the efficiency of scale. So I think you make a very valid point. If we are able to align policy, because this is essentially the dharmic way of life, which has been there for thousands of years, and other factors don't really influence this. No matter what happens, people still will come to the Mahakumbh or the Kumbh Mela, say, every 2-3 years or every 12 years, for example, right? No matter what external circumstances are. So I think that's a great opportunity because you're having large sections of people in one particular area. So if policymakers can bring about policy, let's take, for example, Swachhata, right? The entire cleanliness movement. Imagine you constructing a huge Swachhata, scheme to expand and use this opportunity of large sections of people in one particular area, then it makes your policy making far more effective because you are aligned to the way of life, not the other way around, where policy is isolated from the way of life. Because the way of life is going to win, by the way, because it's been there for thousands of years. And it's a natural sequence of sustainable, eternal living. So it would be wiser and far more effective if policymakers could align their policies towards this and expand these economies of scale. These are a great opportunity to expand the economies of scale, grow the economic pie, using these sort of huge events, which can help us to enhance not just the spiritual and coefficient, but also the economic coefficient as well.
Those who are into the recycling business, reduce, reuse, recycling, waste management, big lessons here, and if they can come in, it's also a huge commercial opportunity for them. Those who are using holy waste in terms of the flowers that are there, taking them, recycling them, making agarbattis, and other products out of it, incense products, driven products out of it. It's a huge opportunity for them, those kind of entrepreneurs, also to collect and to ensure that there is no huge trail of waste, debris, and that's left once these devotees leave these destinations. And same thing, we can take this, it can all be under the entire Swachhata policy, and educating people that take some of these values back to where you are coming from and implement them in those core areas.
And this time around, just to add to your point, this time around, the entire technological revolution, right? There is AI-generated systems, there are drones, there are a variety of these tech startups.
Yeah, UPI, QR-coded ticketing systems, the
startup entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is using these economies of scale to sort of really expand their message, expand their audience. So there are a variety of opportunities if we sort of view this through this prism.
So truly science meets spirituality, but from the Chetana aspect of it, more than nearly twice the turnout from 2019, 2021 was post-COVID, but Pandit Vamdev Shastri, what does that symbolify or indicate for Bharat?
Well, we see this great awakening of Bharat. Now, please remember that Bharat is the most ancient civilization in the world, the great Dharmic civilization of the great rishis and yogis. There have been many efforts to conquer it, to control it, to suppress its civilization, to not give it even proper regard in textbooks today. So it is the awakening of this great civilization also, and its global spread. This is a great spiritual symbol at the Mahakumbh, but the Indian population diaspora is leading a lot of the IT and the technological revolution in the world, the medical healing in the world. India is rising economically. Its global influence in geopolitics is increasing. So this is like the spiritual heart of that great awakening that is going on today. No other ancient civilization has survived. Many have been destroyed and lost their glory. And now we have this wonderful awakening and a seeing of how this ancient Rishi civilization is still relevant today. Rishis talk about going beyond time and space. Yogis talk about other worlds, other universes, universal consciousness, the way of the future. So it shows the endurance of India and Bharat as the Vishwa Guru, the guru of humanity, and now all the people are recognizing it and coming together, and we will see more of that in the future, and that should be celebrated and honored. India is not a separative civilization or culture. It is all embracing universal, eternal, Sanatana Dharma, and we can say it's alive, healthy, awake, spiritual, intellectually expressing itself and bringing hundreds of millions of people to the greatest spiritual event of humanity so far.
But Acharya-ji, when is the earliest reference of Kumbh? Because many historians try to date it back to only 150, 200, 300 years, talk more about the Mughal period. But is it, how far back? Anand Neelakantan spoke about Adi Shankaracharya trying to use the Kumbh to try and get people again together and various sects, offshoots of Sanatan to work together. But what's the earliest reference?
Well, I will have to say that there's a very important reference in Rig Veda itself. We have the two great rishis, Agastya and Vasishta, who are brothers. Actually, Agastya is the elder brother. And they take birth by divine grace and Mitra and Varuna in the Kumbh. And they say, oh, it just means a pot. No, it doesn't. It means this magical gathering. The water is there. And we have the honoring of the great Saraswati River before the Ganga. This basis of bathing in the rivers is there. sacred celebrations. There are also references to various astrological events, solstices, equinoxes, and special events. So you can debate about specifically this event in detail, but this tradition and symbolism is inherent in all the Vedic and Bharatiya culture, honoring of the rivers, honoring of the rishis, and taking the bath. It's not just a bath in the water.
Right.
It's a spiritual bath in the divine grace, the flow of the Ananda, and the descent of the divine rivers through the Sahasrara into the spiritual heart from the universe as a whole. And this is a chance at the Mahakumbh to embody this and experience in our human lives today a great, wonderful transformation for all. Hari Om.
Beautifully put. Anandji, final words. I have got to wind up, but your thoughts, will there be more stories written about Kumbh, the confluence? Will many take back memories and stories with them?
This is the greatest spiritual event, and we are lucky to live in this time because none of us are going to see the next Mahakumbh. It will happen after 144 years. Apart from that, I think it is time that the government give more importance to the temples, because temples had always been the center of culture, music, art, literature throughout our history, apart from a place of spirituality. The Kumbh, how they are managing it so beautifully, the same thing should be extended to the lakhs of temples across India. Many of them are now not in such a good shape, the management of it. I think this experience will help us to rejuvenate all the temples and the temple cultures across India, and which will give birth to more beautiful stories about this continuing civilization.
Lovely, brilliant message to end with. And we got time till the 26th of February. If you've not gone and planned your trip to Prayagraj for the holy dip, well, give it a rethink now. We're going to wind up on that note. Thank you very, very much. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
With that, we call it a wrap on this edition of The Right Stand. Stay with us, Brass Tacks, after the break.